When does a game stop being a game and transform into a work of art? In recent years, a notable surge has occurred in the creation of new games using exciting and unique visual mechanics. These games leverage puzzle elements and optical illusions to transcend the confines of two-dimensional space, opening the door to an entirely new realm of potential and excitement in the world of gaming. In the past, we bit into the delightful sandwich that was the Portal series, which received resounding success. In more recent times, titles like The Witness and the Stanley Parable have emerged to test players with its perplexing puzzles, while games like Superliminal took the very fabric of two-dimensional space and turned it inside out. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're discussing Viewfinder, a new puzzle game developed by Sad Owl Studios as their debut game, which released on July 18th for PlayStation 5 and the PC. Viewfinder is an engaging first-person puzzle game that employs perception, illusion and surrealism to challenge players through an immersive puzzle-solving experience. The concept behind Viewfinder is undeniably intriguing and draws many parallels with older titles like Portal, Superliminal and The Witness. You play as a character travelling through a computer simulation in an attempt to learn more about a research project designed to save a dying humanity. The classic dystopia story, but Viewfinder is far from a depressing end-of-the-world scenario. You embark on a journey through a computer simulation, accompanied by a comforting voice on the other end of the telephone, guiding your adventure and giving you story developments along the way.
Did you just shift reality?
During your explorations, you'll uncover a tapestry of secrets, research notes and voice recordings to gradually unveil the tale of the simulation's inception. As your journey progresses, you'll cross paths with Kate the cat, a wise and knowledgeable companion who imparts wisdom and knowledge along the way. And of course, you can pet the cat, because who doesn't want to pet the cat? Spanning across 5 distinct and unique worlds, Viewfinder offers a diverse array of puzzle-solving techniques and unique aesthetic designs, with each world featuring its own unique look and charm. Viewfinder introduces its mechanics progressively throughout the game, ensuring a gradual build-up of techniques to master to avoid overwhelming the player all at once. The initial stages of the game, you're acquainted with the notion of transposing images onto the game world, effectively transforming a photograph into a tangible, three-dimensional reality. Grab a photograph of a room or a building, lift it up in front of you, and suddenly it springs to life, unfolding into an expansive, fully immersive three-dimensional space. Using this technique, you're taught to maneuver gaps by plugging a picture of a bridge into the game world, or getting to new areas by replacing a closed door with an open one. This technique essentially lays the groundwork for more advanced mechanics later down the line, and during my time with Viewfinder, this never got old. I always had that same feeling of awe after watching a photograph materialize in real time in front of my eyes. As your journey unfolds, you'll even begin to find pictures that aren't true to life, featuring abstract sketches, whimsical childlike paintings, and even a pixel art dungeon, which felt like I'd just stepped into Minecraft. Where's that diamond sword when you need it? A particularly awesome moment occurred when I encountered a small Tamagotchi game, allowing me to set it down within the game world and magnify it to a monumental scale. In a nice touch, the buttons even worked, which the developers really didn't have to go to the trouble of making. Small touches like this work together to solidify Viewfinder into an immersive and awe-inspiring experience like no other. The game boasts an extraordinary artistic style that not only enhances its gameplay and puzzles, but also infuses depth into its narrative, world building and overall presentation. Within a certain level, you encounter a childlike drawing of a windmill. When you transpose this into the world, you can actually walk down into the picture in a lifelike scale and visit the inside of the building in real time. It's awe-inspiring and almost felt like a walking art gallery at times. In another stroke of genius, early on we're introduced to the rewind mechanic, which is presented to the player in an in-game and believable way through the use of unstable flooring. The simple puzzle here is trying to find out which floor you can walk on and rewinding it when you fall. By presenting the player with a problem in-game and a tool to solve this problem, the developers avoid the need for a tutorial message or other immersion-breaking way of teaching the player, and allows you to learn Viewfinder's mechanics in a natural and understandable way.
Oh, what? That's sick!
The game never presents the player with any hard stop failure conditions. No death mechanics or soft locks to halt your progress or create frustration. Later on, near the end of the game however, this changes somewhat, and Viewfinder does present the player with the failure mechanic, but I'll let you discover that for yourself. This seamless way of introducing game mechanics naturally, by not resorting to jarring death screens or interruptive continue prompts, results in a unique sense of immersion, and immersion is something that Viewfinder does incredibly well. The goal of each level is very simple. Locate and activate a teleporter found somewhere in the game world. The objective remains consistent and straightforward throughout the game. Stepping onto a teleporter swiftly whisks you away with a shutter-like transition, which happens instantly and feels great. Between Viewfinder's 5 game worlds, you use a monorail system which transports you to the next world once you've completed all non-optional levels in your current world. The absence of loading screens is great and contributes to the overall seamless experience, keeping the game feeling alive and immersive. Viewfinder's basic gameplay loop consists of introducing the player to new mechanics and subsequently challenging them to apply their understanding to solve puzzles and move forward. New mechanics, techniques and puzzles are introduced in a logical and understandable way, and made me want to continue playing to uncover the secrets ahead. Once you've mastered the transposition mechanic, Viewfinder introduces a new technique, The printer. With the printer, you're essentially able to generate multiple copies of a single photo, which enables you to essentially duplicate parts of the world and adds another layer of depth to the puzzles in Viewfinder. While writing this, I realized that I never actually tried to print a photo of the printer itself, but I bet you can probably do that if you tried hard enough. Along with this, we're introduced to scenarios which require the use of rotation to create a solution. By adjusting the perspective of a photograph, you gain the power to manipulate the orientation of a ledge or cause an object to drop down. This allows access to items and objects that might have otherwise been out of reach. Viewfinder progressively cultivates the player's capacity to think creatively by layering new mechanics and problems one by one. This gradual drip feed of techniques, coupled by the demand to master these mechanics to progress, creates a sense of reward and progression. You'll feel like a genius when you manage to solve that tricky puzzle that had you stumped, and oftentimes the solution requires a logical, out-of-box thinking, which makes you feel like you've got one over on the developers, which is great design. As you delve into the later levels, the difficulty begins to ramp up and things become a bit more complicated. I never found myself completely stuck in Viewfinder, but I did encounter some head-scratching moments that had me pondering for more time than I'd care to admit. You'll encounter fragmented boards within the game world, each holding a section of a photograph. When rearranged in your peripheral vision, these create a tangible, real-life projection of the image. This is a mechanic taken directly from Superliminal and works really well. Along the way, we're taught how to use power systems, interconnected by a series of electrical wires, which channel electricity to the teleporter, facilitating progression to the next level. In certain situations, you'll encounter timed electrical systems, which only provide power for a short period of time, requiring you to devise a solution to navigate to the teleporter in a short period of time. This is another example of a mechanic which looks easy at first, but you'll quickly discover some nuances, such as the fact that any photograph of a teleporter must also include the entire power chain, unbroken, which adds more depth and complexity. This is another system that's never directly explained in-game, but requires mastery to progress. Viewfinder integrates multiple small puzzles into one larger big picture, and it does this very well, making you feel like you're bending the game to your will. Deliberate design choices prompt you to think outside of the box, and make you believe that you're outsmarting the developers and present a satisfying reward when you do. Later on, we're introduced to the camera. Given that this game is called Viewfinder, I had been waiting for this since I started, and I was excited when I finally got to use it. The game first teaches you about the camera system by attaching it to the floor, similar to those coin-operated binoculars you see at tourist traps. Through the use of more great tutorial design, Viewfinder seamlessly presents the player with new and unique mechanics and teaches you how to use them in simple to understand terms. By allowing the player only to take photographs of specific locations, we're taught to understand the camera mechanics without being overwhelmed. In certain circumstances, you'll find optional notes strewn around the levels which provide additional game lore and some tips and hints which gently nudge you along. These can be completely ignored if you want to. By World 3, Viewfinder really begins to get creative. You'll encounter optional illusions which blend two-dimensional images to create a three-dimensional effect. This is a French illusion technique known as trompe-l'oeil and works surprisingly well in-game on a 2D monitor. The developers leverage this approach to conceal elements or confuse the player. For example, you'll see a staircase which looks real from afar, but upon closer examination, reveals itself as a simple two-dimensional drawing on the wall. In one particular instance, this technique proved to be a bit too effective, obscuring the level's objective entirely, and caused me to wander around hopelessly. While in most cases, Viewfinder manages to balance the complexity and immersion to prevent the player from becoming frustrated, but there were times like this when it diminished the overall experience. Near the end of the game, the story begins to take more of a forefront focus and begins to unravel. I won't spoil too much here, but things begin to take a turn for the worst, and the game starts feeling a little bit more like Portal, introducing an intriguing shift in dynamics. Expanding upon the fixed camera mechanic, you'll soon come across cameras equipped with timers, which take photographs when the timer runs out. At first glance, this seems like a straightforward addition, and not really much of a change to taking pictures normally, but you'll quickly realize that you can use this timer to take selfies, and I'll leave it to you to discover the possibilities of this one. Ultimately, once the game has imparted all its wisdom, you're given a handheld camera. Finally, I can take pictures of anything I want, I thought. This is a great moment in the game and grants the player with the freedom to approach its remaining puzzles creatively. Now you find yourself leaving the simulated world behind and traverse entire environments crafted with photographs you've taken and placed into the world. By this point, the story begins to take shape and the world design and soundtrack present a captivating and melancholic experience. I almost felt like I was playing Myst, as a lone wanderer trapped between the physical world and the simulated one. Putting the positive points aside, there were some instances where I found the puzzles to be a bit too abstract and far-fetched. For example, in one situation, objects in the game world began to morph into illusions painted on the wall, which presented an intriguing effect. However, the game doesn't really provide any explanation as to how or why this was happening, and occurred seemingly at random, leaving me confused and not really rewarded. This wasn't a huge negative, but it definitely impacted my enjoyment of certain levels. Viewfinder up until this point presents a fair experience because the rules are clear and consistent, but that went out the window and became more about luck than logical thinking. The game never became too easy or too hard, and the mechanics worked together to become quite complicated by the end. Viewfinder manages to maintain a delicate balance of difficulty, and the mechanics gradually intertwine to create intricate complexity. Thanks to its gradual introduction of each new mechanic, as I reached the end of the game I was quite surprised by the amount of techniques I was combining together to easily solve puzzles and move forward. I feel like the developers could have made the game more difficult overall, but it definitely wasn't too easy. Viewfinder evoked strong parallels to a blend of Myst and Portal, and gave me a sense of watching someone get lost inside a world created in their own imagination. That melancholic sense of being lost inside a place that didn't exist. Overall, I would recommend this game to anyone who enjoys puzzlers and abstract thinking. For the price of £20, Viewfinder wasn't particularly long, but the optional levels and collectible items will keep you engaged for a good 10 or 20 hours if you want to experience everything. I hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the world of Viewfinder. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like, leave a comment or subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and as always, happy snapping!